Popaholic, and I am talking with both members of Urge Overkill. This is Nash Kato and Eddie King Roeser. Did I get that right?
Roeser.
Roeser.
Very
Okay.
close.
All right.
Very good. Thank you.
Good. And they have a new album out called We, which is French for yes. And I say yes to this album. So Eddie, since I can see you and we can also hear Nash, tell me a little bit about how this came about, because there hasn't been an Urge Overkill album in over 10 years.
Right.
And your last album which was pretty amazing, which is, you know, the Rock and Roll Submarine. That was pretty cool. And it kind of established your new sound, I think. And tell me a little bit about how this album got put together.
Well, I guess we had really had been accumulating lots of material with Rock and Roll Submarine. And that was kind of a process by which we had decided to give it another shot. It started with a reunion show. It started with the classic members no longer speaking to each other. Then we forgot why that had happened. It was a giant misunderstanding, of course,
Right.
as these things go. And it's like, well, let's do a show. And it just kind of snowballed from there, because it really, once you know, we'd done the old material enough that the new stuff kind of came through naturally. So this record really comes from the bones of the last record, which really logically shouldn't exist, but I thought we did a pretty good job. In fact, we probably had enough for a double record, and we had a lot of trouble whittling down what Rock and Roll Submarine was going to be about.
Right.
Maybe some of the songs that I think, as we were playing as a band, we kind of picked songs that I thought we could maybe go out and tour with. And we had plenty of really great ideas that were kind of spontaneous ideas that maybe weren't songs that lent themselves to taking to the stage. And I think that's what we have with this record. I don't think at that point after Rock and Roll Submarine, we didn't have the Wham thing yet.
Right. That was my next question. You lead right into my next question.
Well, a couple other things. Yeah. So we did have, what you call stems or basic tracks. And now the way that people build music digitally is like, you kind of, you put up the tracks that maybe had been recorded in somewhere else and you barely remember, or maybe you thought they weren't good. But if you have your hard drive, you listen to it 2 years later, you're like, well, this doesn't suck at all. In fact, this might be better than some of the other stuff we thought was good. Nash, and if you recall, we got together at a couple of studios. We recorded this one. So some of it is older material, and we had enough to realize, okay, this is a record. Things taking a while as they do ended up being, it wasn't supposed to take a decade, but I guess it did. It's shocking that that's the amount of time that it took. But so that's the genesis of this thing is, some of the songs are newer than other ones, and some of the parts on the songs are new. Like you kind of finish the vocals last, and you make sure you got something that works in the Motown tradition. They a lot of people build the tracks first, and if they rock, then you put in the effort to do the vocals, and that takes some time.
Well, I have to tell you, I love the instrumentation on a lot of it. I have a couple favorite songs here. One thing that I've always wanted to ask both of you, and Nash, please feel free to chime in.
He's here. So
just let me know what you consider yourself in any kind of specific genre. The reason I'm asking that is because you started sort of in one genre in the in the early 90s and then kind of morphed over into different genres. And I'm telling you, the song, let's say a song like Litany would be an amazing heavy metal song if it was played in that style, but it's a great song as it is in your album. But I wanted to ask what genre you consider yourself in, or if you consider yourself beyond any genre.
Gosh.
Nash, I think it's at this point, it's the genre of Urge. And I think we've, we were unable to whittle our sound down to, I think, bands that can do that, to have a sound that's so recognizable. Like I think about Weezer, like all their songs are vaguely similar.
Yeah.
They're a band we admire, but I think they did benefit from having, they kind of kept the guitar sounds the same, and they had the same guy sing all the songs. And Urge has always been more of a Beatlesque journey through Nash and my consciousness and musical fandom, in that, try as we might to hone in on like a sound, we didn't try that hard. But I think some of the records we maybe worked with people, and I think with Saturation we got close to a sound because we had the Butcher Brothers working with us to kind of say, you gotta kind of keep it, let's keep this a little more focused. And so we did, I think in the beginning, Nash was very much influenced by Parliament Funkadelic, and he had this
where the name comes from.
Vocabulary of listening to a lot of funk and soul music, which I didn't hear growing up in the middle of nowhere, but I was well versed in classic rock. And by the time Nash had started the band, these Urge Overkill songs reminded me very much of X songs. They were very fast, well, catchy, like pretty hard driving stuff. So we've always been sort of in conversation with our influences. Then we met Albini, who had his own aesthetic, and his recording techniques kind of veered us into, our very first recordings were very raucous and very, I'm not going to say Big Black, but they were recorded by the guy who, built Big Black. And that you could hear that sound, and it is maybe a fortunate, after a while, we needed to branch out and get away from that because we didn't really want to go that direction. But he was the guy who was nice enough to record our band and put out a record. So who were we to say no? But Nash, go ahead. But don't you think we're genre-less, I guess, at this point, and that is I guess a point of pride.
Yeah, I mean, I used to always just say we're a rock and roll band, but we've dabbled in other genres. But yeah, I say at this point, it really is. There's no other word for it but Urge, So.
That's a good description. I like that. Now, some of the songs in this album are pretty. I just love a lot of the intros. A lot of the instrumentation is like, somewhere, I hate to categorize anything, but it's somewhere in between, Nirvana, Cheap Trick, and ZZ Top for me. It sort of falls, it touches each one of those a little bit.
Yeah, that's definitely spot on. And, when ZZ Top was verboten in the, punk rock touch and go world, of course, everybody from those guys half of them are from Texas.
Yep.
We all listened to that stuff, but it was kind of like not so cool to wear that on your sleeve. But we definitely we jumped in with ZZ Top, and of course Cheap Trick were on my junior high bedroom. I had the huge, like 4x4 foot posters of the Cheap Trick. I think I had the Dream Police, the somewhat vexing Dream Police look looking down on me when I woke up every morning. I don't know. I wasn't so happy when that record came out to hear all the synthesizers, but I've grown to appreciate how that can happen.
Nash, what about you? What was on your bedroom wall at that time?
a lot of I was in with this record store growing up, so I don't think I liked me, but so I got all these free posters, mostly like new wave shit, you know, Devo and B-52s and Elvis Costello. So they were on my walls, and I liked that music, but it was mainly because I had all these cool posters, and that's what you do. You tack them to your wall.
Yep. So let me get back to the album, We, and tell me, there's the second track, A Necessary Evil. So what's the necessary evil?
I mean, we lose track of what the genesis of the songs when we come up like that. That song was sort of nameless, and then it had the lyrics "You're killing me" in it, and and we were I think it might have been something about this is such a pop tune. How can we eject some evil into it? Like, how can we make it threatening? That was one of the ideas, I think. And just the idea that, I mean, generally more philosophically, there's so much to be upset about in this world. It's like some of it has got to be there for a reason. You can't ruin your life with, you can't be all good. That's boring. It's just one of those, it's one of those cliches that was calling out to be a song title.
Got it.
Somehow I think at some point we saddled that with that music and built on that. But that is a good question, because we're not really sure ourselves. So it's open to debate.
It just sang so well, it struck us as catchy. So.
No, it is. It's one of one of my favorites on the album. Another favorite that I really liked was Prisoner's Dilemma. Great story in there. Tell me a little bit about that song.
Wow, that was a trip. I didn't know what was happening, but Nash was fully in control of the Amanda Knox story. At the time was Nash, what was happening in that saga? But this is a story song, like we've done some before.
Well, yeah, when I started, like everyone, I was, pretty captivated by it's just such an odd story, and it had, certain international intrigue, and this young college girl, caught up in this murder trial. But so, I penned the tune. It didn't take very long, as I was just, taking everything, the lines and everything, just straight off the news. It was, all over the news for months, possibly years. But yeah, no sooner do I finish the song, she gets sprung. She beats the rap, flies back home. And I was like, well, what do I do with the song? It's like, I'm not going to, I like the lyrics and how they sang. And you have to change them to like, welcome home, like here you're going to college and, might be married soon, I mean, boring, So I just said, even though the story wasn't no longer relevant, the song came together so well. I was just like, fuck it, like, let's just record it. That's what we did.
He had this crazy demo that was, it was truly insane. I'm like, how can we make a song of this? I couldn't hear it till the end when we started building this, opus. It is also, it says it's a great story, but it also has a musical opus, and most of our records have at least one of those multi-part.
I love the story songs.
And that came together pretty quick too. I think Nash wrote it in an afternoon, and then we recorded it pretty quick too. Once we were on a roll in this studio, we did a bunch of this stuff in
you guys, another question I had is, do you guys have a favorite type of guitar that you play for the rhythms of a lot of these songs? Who does the rhythm exclusively, and what kind of guitar is it that you play?
I think on these may sound, we do have a favorite amp which is an orange amp that had been messed with and altered in some possibly wrong way, that a lot of the sound, I think what you're hearing is an amplifier.
Okay,
That is our trusty orange amp, because
Yeah,
we're using various different guitars, and it's usually not one person, or sometimes we'll sort of forget, but a lot of the, if I'm singing, maybe it's me mostly on guitars, and if Nash is singing the tune, usually it's a lot of his guitar. But that is one thing we try to have is some consistency in the sound.
definitely you do.
We've got a magic amp, I guess.
yeah. And it's black, and it's black issue, no less. Very rare. Black issue orange amp from the late 60s or something.
Wow. All right, cool. So tell me a little bit about, like, now that you got this album out, are you going, COVID's kind of relieving a little bit, so some tour dates are, coming alive in some places. What are your plans for promoting the album, with touring?
I guess we've been, we've been pretty caught up with just finishing the artwork and stuff like that. The touring has been so touch. I mean, people have wanted to set up tours, and there were shows that I've seen that have been proposed, for a year and a half ago. But that is TBD, to be determined.
Sure.
Urge hitting the road behind this record. But I guess we'll say, we'll keep you in the loop. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess one thing I could say is we do envision a roaring 20s, that of the soundtrack being largely consisting of Urge Overkill, which certainly no one would have predicted, but I'm predicting it here and now. So
Awesome.
we're happy that the clouds are parting, and this is the proper time for this record to come out. One thing that was so oddly timely is I saw I don't know if you've seen the movie Dune. We have this bull imagery on our record for some reason. Yep. And it's that imagery of the bull ring and is all over in that movie. And it's almost like we're like thinking along the same path. Had no idea. I walked into the theater, and some of the imagery reminds me of the album cover, which we had no prior knowledge of. So it's all in the zeitgeist.
Yeah, you're hitting it at the right time, that's for sure. All right, that was last question. Why did you end up picking Wham's Freedom as your opening track? Because in the past, you've come out with, you did Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon by Neil Diamond. That was a big hit. That was also a cover. Were you thinking along those lines, like, hey, let's get a nice cover going? But there's also a different kind of feel to it. You basically changed the song, the way you sang it, so it's completely a different meaning from the George Michael version.
Yeah, it's altered pretty, completely, which is what we like to do with covers. They're best left alone unless you can do something unusual with it.
Yep.
But we were not knowledgeable, acquainted with George Michael's catalog or anything like that, or Wham. And this was something, Nash, we were on tour, we discovered the song. We heard the song sort of tangentially.
Right.
Yeah, on the radio, on wacky radio for Europe. Yeah.
And we remember that there was a song called Freedom. We didn't even know who did it. And we when we got back, and we were kind of kicking around in the studio trying to oil the wheels. We're like, well, we'll never use, let's kick this out and sort of see how it sounds. Like,
right.
This is not something, sometimes if you're kicking off a recording session, you want to do something that's not too serious. And So we were sort of thinking, well, let's, Nash was like mess around with the song. I didn't even remember vaguely how it went. And we just kind of recorded it. It seemed like within hours, and it just kind of came together on its own, sort of thinking, well, we might as well keep going, sounding pretty good. And in the end, we had something that was inexplicably cool and unexpected and very much like not planned out. And I think some of our biggest successes have come out of this sort of non-planned. We did the hot chocolate song as sort of that was a lark. Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon was actually a lark because we were recording our EP Stall. We had about 4 songs barely written. We ran out of songs and we just kicked that out. We started it, and then Kramer was there saying, "Oh, let me add a piano." And before we knew it, this sort of started in this haze of like, pot smoke delusion, airy haze, turned into this thing that, all of a sudden Kramer is like, "You guys got something here." It was one of those moments. It's like, really? What are you talking about? So I guess he was right. And, accidents happen. And in Urge lore, it's a good thing. As many
happy accidents.
Things as people talk about it all the time, but I think our best things tend to be results of things happening by accident. And the Wham cover was like the last thing. If you would have looked into crystal ball 10 years ago, I would have said that is not in the future. Your crystal ball is malfunctioned.
Got it.
Right. And then George Michael, just ups and dies tragically. And so it just, again, the timing was uncanny, like, because we kind of had this, well, now we have to put it on the album,
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate this interview. Nash Kato, Eddie King, Roeser, thanks so much for, talking to me, and congratulations again on We. It's a great album. Love some of the songs on here, and more power to the Urge and Urge Overkill.
Thanks. Well, we do consider ourselves within the umbrella of power pop. So
you are.
We like the
Don't
direction.
let anyone tell you otherwise.
No way. We're big power pop. We're believers. So.
All right, great. Thanks so
Thanks for
much
your
again.
interest, man.
All right, take care.
See you next time.
Yep.
We put one out, huh?
Yep. Take care.
You too.
All right, cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye.